Yo yo yo, what's up everybody and welcome. In this video we're going to get to know the classes available to play on Dofus Touch, and hopefully one of them catches your attention. So you're new to Dofus Touch and ready to start on your journey. You get hit with this screen and you never heard of a Sram, a Craw, or a... how do you even pronounce that? You really just don't have a clue what class to start with. Well, don't worry, because this video was made just for you. This will be a broad overview for new players to get familiar with Dofus versions of classical RPG archetypes. The goal is to get you to go, hey, this one sounds pretty awesome, I'm going to give it a shot. One thing that's really cool about the classes in Dofus is that they can be built in many different ways, creating much variety. So we're going to keep things simple for now. Breakdowns such as build videos on individual classes will be down the line, so this is mainly something to get you started. Also, chapter breaks are available, so if you want to jump to a certain class and hear what I have to say about it, go right ahead. Alright, let's get started. Let's just go down the list here. So first up is the Osamodas, pretty much the summoner of the game. There are other classes that can summon, of course, but more specifically, these guys are more akin to Beastmasters or Tamers. There is no monster capture system you have to deal with or worry about, just that they have predetermined summons already and you'll be unlocking them as you level up. By the time you get to level 100, you will have all the Osamoda summons available to you. What makes these guys really cool is they can pretty much become an army of one. They can summon a bird that nips at enemies, a sheep that tanks hits, a boar that pushes enemies away, a zombie koala capable of healing, and finally an epic dragon at level 100. How many summons you can have at a time is going to depend on your gear, so keep an eye out for equipment that gives you plus summons. You can have a maximum of 6 summons at a time. One really cool thing you could do when having 6 summons on the field is using the spell Favoritism. With this spell, you're going to choose one of your summons, and the rest are going to get sacrificed, giving this one summon a huge buff. It's got this really cool visual effect where your summon is just gonna get massive. It literally turns into like a kaiju, and it's just super cool to see. So moving on, depending on your chosen element or elements, your gameplay will revolve around a particular summon, and your summon stats will be based on yours. But on top of that, the Osamoda itself is no pushover, capable of dishing out great damage alongside their summons. Osas, overall, they're super versatile, ranging from damage to support, easy to pick up, and definitely recommended for newcomers. The Sram, this is my boy right here. When I started playing in 2006, this was the first class I chose. I knew nothing about the game or how they played. I just thought the skeleton mat looked so cool, and that was enough for me. So these guys are pretty much the ninja of Dofus. Their gameplay revolves around being silent assassins. They lay invisible traps on the field for unaware enemies to carelessly step on and trigger. They can poison enemies, slowly ticking down at their HP. They have access to a summon called the Double, which literally just makes a copy of yourself, and it doesn't attack, but it could annoy your opponent or trigger traps. But their biggest feature is the ability to go completely invisible. And this allows the Sram to set up their traps, set up their poison, and there's very little the enemy can do because they don't know where you are. And that's going to keep you really safe from taking damage. If playing a ninja assassin type character sounds awesome to you, then go with Sram. These guys are damage dealers, so they have great damage. And I would definitely recommend this for newcomers, as they're also great for solo play. Next up is the Eniripsa, in other words, pretty much the healer or the white mage. Everybody loves them, everybody needs one. This is mainly a support class, and because of that they really shine in group play. They can do okay damage, but their main focus will be on the healing. Overall, they are a pretty straightforward class, but because of their lack of damage, they can struggle a bit when they're solo. So I'm going to talk very briefly about builds because I feel that's important here in guiding you if you want to go with Eniripsa. So Intelligence, or the fire build, is the most common build for the Eniripsa. That's because Intelligence is the stat that's going to boost your heals. When it comes to offense, your options are pretty limited. You have your weapon and one fire spell. so keep that in mind. So if you have a play group or a group of people who you regularly play with, this is definitely a good option. Now there's the chance build. The chance Eniripsa is a little bit more aggressive and less on the support side, which means your healing is not going to be that great, but you are going to be able to hold your own, because with the chance build you're going to have access to two spells that are going to support you. One of them is going to deal damage to the enemy and siphon HP off of them, effectively healing off any damage you may have taken, and the other chance spell is going to put a shield around you, pretty much reducing damage. Overall, if you like playing the role of medic and letting others do the rough work, Eniripsa is a class for you. This guy with the funny name is the Yop, or you could also pronounce it as Iop. Pretty much the Knight Warrior class. These guys are all about raw strength. A lot of their spells have high base damage already, so if you like to see big numbers and just want to pummel your way through problems without much thought, then this class is your class. Overall, just pretty straightforward, to be honest. Just punch, punch, punch. Well, I wish I could say more, but definitely beginner friendly and a great first pick. The Craw, the Rangers, the Archers. This is the long range class, attacking and keeping foes at a distance. They're all about range. What more can I say? This is another pretty straightforward class, great for both solo and group play, because they got great damage, they got great support spells, and just overall just great tools at their disposal. With that said, this is another easy to pick up class and great for a beginner. So if playing at a distance is your style, then the Craw's waiting for you. The Sacriers. These guys are pretty much the berserkers of the game. As a Sacrier, you want to be in the middle of things and you want to get punched in the face. I'm not playing, this is how they work. As getting hurt is going to make you stronger. The more HP you've lost, the better. In team play, they even have a spell that gets casted on allies, making it so that the damage they take gets transferred onto the Sacrier instead. These guys really want the pain. They are for the most part a close combat class, but they have great positioning spells to get them up close and personal to their enemies, which, like I mentioned, this is where they want to be. They have this whole motif of blood, which reminds me of vampires, so if words like vampire, rage, smash puts a smile on your face, then Sacriers is the class for you. They have a little bit of a learning curve because of the way they function, but if you set them up right, they can output amazing damage. The Feca, the protectors of Dofus. These guys are all about reducing and negating damage. So this class puts an emphasis on defensive buffs. Much like the Eniripsa, they are more on the support side, which means awesome for group play. They also have the ability to put huge glyphs on the floor that can affect many units at once. So with these glyphs, you are going to want allies or enemies to be standing in them for them to take effect. And depending if they're an ally or a foe, they're going to receive damage, a buff, or even a debuff, depending on the glyph they're actually in. What's really cool too is you could overlap these glyphs on top of each other, pretty much stacking the effects of the glyphs. So if protecting others is your jam, then check out the Feca. The Enutrof. I love these guys. Their design is so unusual for a class in a fantasy MMO. Let's see, these guys are kind of hard to describe as an archetype. They have a theme of treasure hunters and money, much like Scrooge McDuck. Which, if you're looking to get a little bit of an edge on loot, the Enu innately comes with more prospecting. Prospecting is a stat that increases your chances of dropping items from monsters, which is kind of important when it comes to making and saving money. As for their gameplay, it revolves around paralyzing the opponent. They have a handful of MP manipulation spells. And MP is short for move point. Move points determines how many spaces your character can move. So if your character has 0 MP, they pretty much can't move. And much like the Craw, the Archer class, they are about long range combat. So they want to keep enemies in place while staying out of reach. They can even cast a spell called Bribe, to make an enemy just straight up skip their turn, which is super useful when things are not going exactly how you planned. So if you're all about that benzo lifestyle, the Enutrof calls for you. They tend to be more on the support side of things, so you really want to be in a group when playing an Enutrof. The Ecaflip. This is another warrior type class, but with the twist that they are gamblers. These guys are all about high risk, high reward. They have spells with a theme of luck to them, giving them an element of RNG. They also have a lot of spells that are going to buff their damage, so they can definitely pack a punch. And they also have this little kitty cat summon that's going to heal allies and hit enemies. Overall, if you're into anthropomorphic cat people, I'm not going to judge, go with the Ecaflip. The Pandawas. These guys are pretty much the Drunken Master class. I'm pretty sure they took inspiration from the movie called The Drunken Master, which, if you've never seen it, it's a classic, it's a good one, go check it out. These guys revolve around being sober and getting drunk on bamboo milk. Depending on which state you are in, you will only be able to do certain things, so balancing between these two states will be super important. One of the main gameplay elements for this class is positioning, and these guys are the best at it in the game. You can pick up enemies or allies and chuck them to very specific spots on the map, which is super important in a game that plays like a chess game. Just imagine picking up a rook or a bishop and just going, it's gonna go over here now. On top of that amazing ability to be able to chuck things anywhere, they love to reduce enemy resistances, which pretty much translates into the enemy taking way more damage. And if that wasn't enough, while in a drunk state, you boost your own resistances as well, turning you into a bit of a tank. This class is just amazing at what it does. But if you do decide to go with Pandawa, you will be mainly on a support role for the most part. Much like the Eniripsa, the healer, people are gonna love you. So you definitely want to be in a group. On a side note, for my team, I don't run a panda, and sometimes it feels like I'm just playing the game on hard mode. This is how good the pandas are. But I love the challenge, so I refuse to run one. The Masqueraider. These guys are kind of hard to describe. I always thought they were like clown people, which is kind of funny, but it turns out they like using all sorts of masks. So the closest thing I can make a comparison to is Majora's Mask. If you ever played that, you know that swapping masks is going to give you different abilities. And that's kind of the same idea with these guys. You've got the Coward's Mask, which is more for like defensive gameplay. The Psychotic Mask for more offensive gameplay, and it's going to give you a boost in power to you and your allies. And finally, you got your Classic Mask, which is going to help you with blocking and keeping enemies in place. So 3 masks in total. Much like the Pandawa and balancing the sober and drunk states, you're going to be switching between these 3 masks, and depending on what mask you have on, you're going to be able to do certain things. For the most part, these guys are more on the support side. They have a lot of area of effect spells that are going to buff themselves and their allies at the same time. And they are a very mobile class as well. In the coward state, you're going to have a lot of spells that are going to be pushing things away. Though a big specialty is shields. And a shield in Dofus is pretty much, it's going to be like this protection that's going to go over your HP. Meaning, if you have 100 points worth of shields, you have to receive 100 points worth of damage before your HP starts going down, which is a really great thing to have. And these guys, they love giving it to themselves and to their team, and it just makes everybody just bulky. They definitely have a bit of a learning curve because of the mask switching, but if you like the idea of swapping masks to become a different person, then the Masqueraider is waiting for you. Alright, these guys here are the Foggernauts, and I like to describe them as pretty much the engineers. If you are familiar with the Team Fortress 2 engineer, you'll see that they're very similar in that they are all about their turrets and managing them. You got the Harpooner, which will be your damage tool. Attack turret, which will be the positioning tool. This thing is going to be used to attract or move things away. And finally, the Lifesaver. This is the healing turret. They are similar to the Osamodas in that the summons are a big part of the Foggernaut gameplay. But in this case, you want to upkeep and maintain these turrets on the field as they will get more and more effective. They are a great alternative to the Eniripsa as well, especially if you go with the fire build, as they even have a dedicated healing spell. Overall, they can really hold their own pretty well and just have a nice set of tools. I would definitely recommend this for beginners and if you have a knack for steampunk. The Sealer or the Sellers, however you want to pronounce it, but these guys are pretty much the Time Wizards or the Time Mages. They are all about slowing down your foes and even disabling them completely. Much like the Enutrofs that focus on MP manipulation, the Sellers are going to focus on AP, and AP is short for action points. In short, action points are the resource you use to cast spells and attack with. These guys have a lot of spells that are going to remove AP from enemies, effectively reducing what they can do per turn, which translates to reducing damage. An enemy can't hit you if they can't cast their spells. In addition to that, they can also boost their own AP and their allies' AP, which turns into the potential of doing more damage. Because like how I explained, the more action points you have, the more you have to expend on casting spells. I would say they are definitely more on the defensive side of things, more support role. I do have a very good friend whose main character is a Xelor, and the damage she gets out of it, it's really impressive, to be honest. But she's been putting a ton of work into her character, so keep that in mind. Overall, they definitely have a high learning curve, but don't let that stop you from becoming a Xelor yourself. Sadidas. These guys are pretty much your nature class. They're kind of like shamans as well. They are another summon heavy class, but they are more on the defensive side as opposed to the Osamodas, which is more offensive summons. They can't summon these voodoo dolls that reduce enemies' AP. They have another doll that's gonna boost your MP and heal. They have a big doll called the Block, which literally it's just gonna annoy your opponent and get in the way. And they even have a little kamikaze doll that's just gonna blow up on your enemy's face. Alongside your dolls, you're gonna be fighting with vines, roots, brambles, and poison. And this is gonna be a great class to handle big groups because they have a lot of area of effect attacks that can handle those large groups pretty well. So definitely the Sadidas are a great class to pick up if you're new, and if you like the whole idea of voodoo magic, shamans, or forest witches, definitely go with this class. Alright, last but not least, the Rogues. These guys are pretty much your bandits or tricksters archetype. Rogues are all about their bomb summons. When you have two bombs that are linear to each other, they are going to create a bomb wall in between, and you want your enemies to walk on them and stay there because that's going to do damage. The longer your bombs are on the field, the bigger they will get and the bigger their damage. Ultimately, you want to get the biggest bombs, get your opponent next to them, and literally just blow them up to like another dimension. Oh shoot. Oh shoot. What happened? Wait, what is this? Dofus Retro, what? We're in the wrong place. Alright, give me a second. I'm gonna fix this. That was insane. A huge explosion just blew us into a whole different game. Alright, where were we again? Oh, Rogues. That's right, Rogues. The Rogues probably have the highest output of damage in the game, but it doesn't come easy, as they have a pretty high learning curve. Every fight will be like a puzzle in positioning and movement, but if you master this, it can turn into an insanely overpowered class that's going to one-shot a lot of the toughest enemies the game has to offer. If you just want to just blow stuff up, and this class sounds awesome already, give the Rogue a shot. This class is all about the setup and the explosive payoff at the end. Oof, that was a lot, and this is just scratching the surface. But hopefully one of these guys caught your attention and made you curious enough to try them. Dofus Touch definitely has a huge cast of characters, and they're all pretty unique from each other, as you saw. Also, keep in mind that this was just a general overview of the theme of the class, and not a guide in any form. I may have said that this class is a support class, but depending on how you decide to build your character, be it, you're going to make it into a chance character, fire character, earth, or agility, it might very well be more offensive. I do encourage you to take a look at their spells. Just click on the Find Out More button to inform yourself a little bit more. Alright, so let me know what you think. If you have any comments or questions or anything, just drop it down below into the comment section. This is a fairly new and small channel at this point in time, so I respond to pretty much everything. Drop a like if you found this useful, and subscribe for more English Dofus Touch content. Well, I'm out of breath. I'm gonna go take a break. Until next time, this is Challenger EX.